So this is the Utah Defender again, and something else came into mind, and I want to talk about it because in my videos, when Chief Eric Johnson was doing his little dog and pony show down there in his news media conference with the news, he doesn't show the assassination shot to the back of the head of Chase Allan. Now, I've never seen that before, but it's important to talk about it at this point now that I understand why Sergeant Taylor Jacobson pushed him back in the car. They didn't think through the whole scenario that Chase Allan was going to get out of the car at all. So what they were going to do is bust the window, open the door, and then yell, "Gun, gun, gun." And part of that scenario that they trained for, and again, this was a plan. You have to know that they planned, someone trained them how to get rid of Chase Allan. And again, we had a person, which I'm not going to give their name, who said that Eric Johnson, the day of the murder of Chase Allan, had told him that the FBI had trained them to do away with Chase Allan, which I hope is not true. But seeing how the FBI backs up Hillary and the Democratic Party, why should I question it? I'm just hoping that when I wrote that letter to the lady who's in charge, the special agent in charge of the FBI in Salt Lake City, that they do the investigation. But let me walk you through what happened. Again, I know I just made a video. These officers had trained so much that when they showed up, there were 6 officers on scene. And when they showed up under 3 minutes. There was 6 officers on scene. That does not happen. And they're at the window of Chase, and they're going back and forth. And even when he complied with everything, the news media, they wanted to paint the picture as sovereign citizen. He had a gun, and he didn't comply. But again, if you watch the video, he complied with everything they asked him. They weren't ready for the fact that he was going to open the door and get out of the car. That's why Taylor Jacobson bum rushed him. And what was added into the mix was that Taylor Jacobson had to contain him in the car so he wouldn't be able to stand up. And what was already pre-planned was for Kyle Carey, and the chief never shows this in his little news conference, did an assassination shot to the back of the head of Chase Allan. Now I understand why he did that, because they had not planned for Chase Allan to open his door, and they were going to act like they had to bust his window and pull him out and then yell, "Gun, gun, gun." They were going to yell, "Gun, gun, gun," no matter what. And Butcher, when he yells it, I say he was too far past. He couldn't have seen a gun, because Taylor Jacobson, when you see the body cam footage, is blocking any view of Chase Allan's hands. So you know that it was bogus that Justin Butcher yells, "Gun, gun, gun." All that "gun, gun, gun" was a signal for everyone to be ready to open fire and murder Chase Allan. That was the jump-off point, the signal for everyone to unload their magazines, which Butcher, and I think it was Harrison Chin, you watch them load a second magazine and then fire it into the car, which I think every officer there did. And then I caught wind that they said there was only 18 rounds fired. Really? So here's the thing. So they tell him that they're going to break his window if he doesn't get out of the car. And again, they thought he was going to open his door, but he opened it up. And again, I tell you, he puts his foot out of the car. And they don't want him to get out of the car because they know he doesn't have a gun in his hands. And that's the reason, this is a conspiracy. That's the reason why the district attorney, Troy Rollins, writes, police officers don't have to wait to be shot at to shoot at the suspect. Because he says he has control of the gun. Control of the gun is in your hand, not in between your seat and the center console. But see, this is an authority. This is a guy who's the district attorney of Davis County, because he says it's so, and it's not. He's a liar. That's just put in there to give the Pope's blessing that it was okay to murder this kid because the government is saying it. That's bullcrap. So when Allan opens his door, man, they're like the Keystone Cops. They're all over each other. They didn't expect that. And Butcher rolls down the window, which signals Kyle Carey to go to the back window, point blank to the back of his head, and fire and shoot Chase Allan in the back of the head. That was to stop him from getting out of the car. That way there would have been no body cam, that he had no gun in his hands, and that was the purpose of having the assassination shot to the back of the head. But when they saw he's getting out of the car, Taylor Jacobson probably went to himself, whoops, that's not according to plan. So he bum rushes him, pushes him back in the vehicle, because if he got out of the vehicle and stood up, you would have seen no gun in his hands. And so Kyle Carey, regardless, was going to shoot him in the back of the head, which he did. And again, you could go through all the videos, and Butcher could never see a gun from the vantage point that he had when he yelled, gun, 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 because there was no gun. There was no gun displayed. I want to know who the son of a bitch was that went back in there. And the gun, again, I keep telling you, he grabbed it by the where the slide was and the handle of the gun meet, and pulled it out just like this between the seat and center console. That's why it's sitting where it's at in the picture, because they found it in between the seat, the driver's seat and center console, and then they static display that. Not telling you, the chief didn't tell you in his little dog and pony show, hey, guess what? It didn't drop down. They pulled it out to display the gun. He didn't tell you that, did he? And that's exactly what they did. And I prove in a video with the debris that was on the seat, they went, oh my God, where's the gun? We got to find the gun. And so they knew that he had a CW, that he always carried his gun. They knew that. And so that is why they were going to go ahead. And if not, as Delete Law said about a drop gun, they probably had a gun that they were going to use if he hadn't had his gun. That's how dirty they are. So when Taylor Jacobson went in and pushed Chase Allan back in the car, as I was prompted yesterday, that's why you see Taylor Jacobson pushing Chase Allan back in the car. Chase Allan had already, when he lifted his legs up, he says, oh, he's flexing up. He had already hit his seatbelt and released it. And he was trying to get out of the car, and it shows there's no gun inside the holster. So again, Taylor bum rushes him. Chase Allan yells, Justin Butcher yells, gun, 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 which was a signal for everybody. Get ready, fire. As soon as Sergeant Taylor Jacobson gets out of the car, open fire. And it was also pre-planned that Kyle Carey would take his gun, from what I see in the videos, to shoot Justin Butcher in the back of the head so he would never get out of the car. They did not want him to stand up. He would have no gun in his hands. And that's why he was bum rushed by Sergeant Taylor Jacobson. And the assassination shot, again, you never saw that, did you? That chief kept that whole line of video about which we found. That's why we're saying they manipulated all the videos of all the body cams. That's why you don't see Kyle Carey doing an assassination shot to the back of the head of Chase Allan, because they did not want him to stand up out of that car because he never had his gun out. That's why Justin Butcher asked, is there anybody else in the car? And Chase Allan goes, boy, that's a weird question to ask me. Why did you ask that? They didn't want a witness. They didn't want to kill anybody else. This was all pre-planned. I really believe there was a GPS on the car. One of the reasons why they probably lost the car, the cell phone would have probably shown the same thing. They didn't want his cell phone to show that he didn't have a gun out at any time. So they lost that. And they lost the gun. And let's see if in the report, the OCIC report, that if they did fingerprints on the gun. Who pulled that gun out? Because they're charged with the felony. But I'm telling you, the whole thing stinks. And I tell you that it was all planned. When those police officers all showed up, they already knew prior to that day where they were going to stand. They were going to put their gloves on. No one had to tell them where to stand. And in the video, you don't see anybody telling them where to stand. And 6 police officers don't show up in 3 minutes. The percentage of that is so low, it's not even funny. It's probably under 1%. That happened so fast. That's why everything escalated. There was no escalation training applied by Justin Butcher. That's why Butcher threw his passport up on the top of the car. That was very questionable. That's the first one, big red flag. And to ask for backup for the 4th time to dispatch, or the 2nd time to dispatch, and so everybody knew to come, and knowing that he was where he was driving, and that to have another officer say, oh, I'm right behind you, that tells you it was planned. That these officers had trained for this, that Taylor pushed him in the car so he wouldn't stand up, so he wouldn't see a gun, that Butcher wasn't going to run his passport. And, you know, the news media is so disgusting and despicable, because they could have done all this investigation that I've done, but you don't see one of them who have taken the time to do it, nor recant anything. They say he was non-compliant. Why? Because he didn't go 3,000 miles an hour when he was told to do something? But he complied with everything. He opened his door. Nobody busted the window. Butcher disregarded protocol and threw his passport up there. He had his name, his picture in it. He knew it was him. Why didn't he run it? Why didn't he write him a ticket and tow his car and then had him get out of the car? No, they were hell-bent on murdering Chase Allan. And I had to bring up because it kept bothering me. Who does, I say in my other videos, who does a headshot, an assassination shot? And then you have to ask yourself, why did the chief omit that out of his dog and pony show? Because immediately the public would have been up in arms and down his throat and his ass, up his ass, to demand his relief from his job. And then for him to write, I allow them to go back to work. These guys that murdered Chase Allan. These are terrible human beings. I mean, they are the scum of the earth. They don't even allow to be with us. This was an execution of a young man. The mother, as far as the courts and the sheriff and the police department, saw these people making inroads to show that we didn't need a license or driver's license. They presented the laws. Why would a judge falsely have this young kid, Chase Allan, arrested? Why would he do that? He needs to be gone. That's totally wrong. That's totally against his oaths of office. His ass shouldn't even show up tomorrow. But they murdered this kid, and that's the sequence of events that they went. They escalated the stop. They show up within 3 minutes. They detain him. He asked for backup in 16 minutes, and they detain him in 28 seconds, and he's dead in 3 minutes and 27 seconds. A new world's record, and believe it or not. I have no sympathy for these guys. There's no other way to explain the sequence of events that happened. And when they demanded him to get out of his car, they didn't think he was going to. They had already planned, because he wasn't going to do assassination in the back of the head, so he would not be able to stand up out of the car and show that he had no gun out. And then you have to ask yourself, 6 minutes, they were told to turn off their body cams. And again, that's a critical period after that. They should have never turned off their body cams. As long as they're on site, they have to keep those body cams on. And yet they were told to turn them off by the chief. That's a conspiracy. All this is a planned execution, a murder in cold blood of a young man whose life was worth more than all these other scumbags put together, to include the district attorney and the judge. And the reason why this one is coming on my site so soon after the other one, where I found out the reason why from Heavenly Father, why Sergeant Taylor Jacobson went in and bum rushed him and pushed him back to the car, because they didn't want him to stand up and show that he had no gun. Their whole purpose that day was to murder him in place in that car, and that would have stopped everything, because he was getting out of the car. I show you the videos. I show you the still pictures of it. And then it now makes sense why Kyle Carey, the despicable scumbag, the piece of crap that he is, does an assassination shot to the back of the head of Chase Allan. That was to ensure that that young man would have never stood up and got out of the car. So you can tell this was all planned out. So they probably said, look, what happens if he opens the door and gets out? Well, shoot him in the back of the head. We'll have Kyle Carey do an assassination shot to the back of his head. And that is not shown by the chief. And again, they look into the car. They're standing there. And in Utah Cop Watch's videos, you can go to him, and he has arrows. He says, where's the footage from these cameras? Is that the reason why they turned it off 6 minutes? They didn't want to have the picture inside the vehicle. And it's clearly manipulated on Taylor Jacobson's. You can see where it stops, and then the body cam goes to his arm of Chase Allan. Instead of, it was right here, it should have gone across his body, and as he's going in, you would have seen the whole car and no gun in his hand. They omitted that on purpose to make them look like he had a gun and he pointed it at him. This kid never pointed a gun at anybody. Now I understand the assassination shot. That was planned. They hadn't planned for Chase Allan to stand up and get out of the vehicle. And he was getting out. He complied. That blew their mind. That's why you see the Keystone cops all stumbling over each other and Butcher yelling, gun, 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 where you watch the videos, there's no way he could have seen a gun. That was just a signal that he was supposed to yell out, and he completed his instructions to assassinate and murder Chase Allan by yelling, gun, gun, gun. But the videos show that he couldn't have seen a gun, because Taylor Jacobson's body now was in front of it. In front of him, where he couldn't have even seen anything. You can't. That part you can't see. But they stopped. Anybody who stood and looked back in the vehicle, they stopped their body cams from you seeing the footage that there was no gun. And then I proved the debris moving around on the car that they were looking for the gun. They were shitting their pants, literally, going, where's the gun? And then they found it and displayed it, pulled it right out between the seat and center console. That's why it's sitting statically displayed down there. And that assassination shot bothered me with Kyle Carey. That was to make sure that he didn't stand up out of the car to show that he had no gun. And you have to know that each one of those officers that showed up, Kurt Pence, Kyle Carey, Eric Ganusko, Taylor Jacobson, Harrison Chin, Justin Butcher, all had orders to murder him. They were all trained in it, and no one had to tell them. They all showed up within 3 minutes. 6 minutes. I mean, in 3 minutes, you have 6 officers. And why didn't Kurt Pence? Why wasn't he taken off duty? Because I think I remember him saying, "Oh, my gun jammed," and I think also he was the one that shot the first shot, and then his gun jams. You see the round come out of his gun, but nothing happened to him. So the whole thing escalated. There was no time that Chase Allan never did not comply with him, and yet the news media, how dark and evil they are, just parroted what the police told them to say. That's all they did. They just parroted what the police told them to say. But Chase Allan was monotone, very kind, tried to explain stuff to him. And I talked to Butcher. He didn't know what the hell he was agreeing to when Chase Allan was talking to him. He didn't know it was trustee-ship and insurity and debts incurred. Allan was explaining the laws to him, and he was too stupid and uninformed to realize what Chase Allan was saying. But Chase Allan was very intelligent, and he was trying to explain the laws there. And for the district attorney to say because he had a gun and he had control of the gun, he didn't have control of the gun. He never took it out. You don't have a right. There's 85,000 Utahns that have concealed carry. You don't have a right to shoot us. That's what you're saying, Mr. District Attorney Troy Rollins, you dumbass that shouldn't have your job. You should be gone. You should be terminated. You can't shoot us because you don't like us. And that's what this was about. This was an assassination, a murder by the officers that I've mentioned, directed by Eric Johnson, who is guilty of murder too. And I'm going to include the 2 judges too, because this is a conspiracy. They're just as guilty as everybody else for cold-blooded murder. And I hope it's not true, but the FBI better find out if, in fact, they were trained or if it was just Eric Johnson that trained them. Because he was the head of SWAT. So he knows tactics and techniques. I'm sorry I'm doing this so close to the other one, but now it explains the assassination shot, how this came into the mix. Because regardless if Chase had gotten out or not, or opened his door, they were going to do an assassination shot. And what a turd, what a despicable, disgraceful piece of crap Kyle Carey is. All these officers are just as bad because they murdered in cold blood Chase Allan, and now you know the sequence of events and why Justin Butcher escalated it, why he died, why Chase Allan died in 3 minutes and 27 seconds. You know about the prior dispatch calls. The guys were just drooling to be there at the killing. You know why Butcher disregarded his identification, didn't run it and write a ticket? Because that wasn't the intent of the stop from the beginning. It was to murder him. And I wouldn't put it past that John Karlinchowski and Troy Rawlins were all involved in the murder of Chase Allan. Someone gave the orders and the police department carried it out. And there were so many confrontations between Diane Allen and the police, especially with Eric Johnson. Even in his headquarters, there was a recording of it. And there is a recording of Chase Allan being illegally arrested just because the judge told the sheriffs to arrest him. They're all involved in it. This is so terrible that now you know the whole story. Now you know the rest of the story, besides with the bullshit that this chief wanted everybody to believe that he was non-compliant, a sovereign citizen, he had a gun. Well, he never used the gun. He's not a sovereign citizen, and he complied with every damn thing they said. But that's the image that all the news media has left, because that's what they do. The news in Salt Lake City is an arm of the police departments and the justice system. They're just going to do whatever they're told to do. They're all corrupt. They're all distasteful, disdainful pieces of human shit. Every one of these individuals, they all deserve the death penalty. The news media is culpable for writing bullshit and not investigating all this like I did. Anyway, that's all I have. And again, I just want to say to everybody that's involved that I mentioned by name, the news media and everything, you're going to answer for this to Heavenly Father. He's going to have your ass when you die for lying about what happened and for putting the orders out to do a hit on this kid. And I know it seems totally unbelievable, but I put nothing that can't happen in this day and age, because evil is here in Salt Lake City, and this proves it. And you citizens, you better start saying, you know what? And even a grand jury, I was told by Delete Laws, who's a YouTuber, that all they do is bring in 6 people, and all the district attorney does is saying the police were in fear for their lives, and then they go, okay, let's find them guilty. We can't do it that way. We have to have people like myself, a citizen. I get no traction. They don't even want to let you know I'm out here trying to show to you how terrible this all was. And I'll probably end up dead. But their actions are going to put them in hell, every one of them. What they did to Chase Allan is enough that they're all going to go to hell. They're going to get what they deserve. And they can fool us here on this earth. They're not fooling Heavenly Father, because the Lord's going to hit the mainspring of their mind, and they're going to come forth with everything about their life, as I will have to do. And the Lord will say, you murdered this kid. I'm sorry this was posted so soon, and it's basically the same thing I just said in the other video, but it's the assassination shot while I talked about this. It's because of the assassination shot. Now it makes sense why Kyle Carey went right to the back of the head of Chase Allan and shot him, because that was planned, because they didn't think that Chase Allan was going to get out of the car. And so they didn't want him out of the car, so they shot him in the back of the head to make sure that he stayed in place. And that's why Taylor Jacobson bum rushed him, because if he got out of the car, he would have had no gun in his hand. And there is not one cam. Don't you believe it if it comes up and you see a body cam with a gun in the hand. It better be the whole body, and it better not be doctored, because he never had a gun in his hand. And they know it. The person that moved that gun out knows that that gun was never, Chase Allan never pointed a gun at anybody, that they were hell-bent on murdering him in place where he sat in that vehicle. This is despicable and shameful. Show this to your friends. I thank you for your time. And write the FBI start phone calling Davis County if you so desire. I can't make you. I'm just saying you should call and verbalize your disdain for these people. Call the Farmington Police Department and tell the chief and demand that all these people be fired. All these county people, all these people of Farmington should be fired. You can make their phone calls. I'm not making you. I'm just suggesting that you call and start raising hell with them. And I don't care where you are in the United States, you can call them. And you can find the phone numbers by just asking for Davis County, Utah, District Attorney's Office. You can call Davis County Courthouse and leave messages for John, Carl, and Charles. You can write them. You can get their address too. Inundate them. Let them know. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. God bless everybody. And if I end up dead, you know who did it.